Welcome to another episode of Dorks on Sports, the podcast about four dorks talking about sports. My name is Daniel. Joining me as always, we got Curtis. Curtis, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing well.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What is your overall opinion about this year's playoffs, NFL playoffs?
Oh, bonkers. It was a lot of fun. It was,
Yeah.
the wild card was kind of a turkey, but that weekend, but from the divisional round on, it was great football. All the games were a blast to watch.
I agree. Like, the Seahawks missing the playoffs for, I don't know, what is it, the second time in 10 years or 11 years or something like that, whatever that is. This is a great postseason for that to happen. It's been a lot of fun.
I've been entertained.
Yeah, me too. Alana, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing all right. Feeling old.
Me too. I like the background for, if you're not watching the YouTube version of this, for our pod listeners, we got the 1968 old Bengals logo. Can you describe that for us?
Yeah, and so we got an aggressively fearful tiger carrying a silver football. It looks like he just got it and threw his helmet off and went, "Rah! What do I do now?" It's something else. This 60s and 70s aesthetic for these football teams is something that I really want to. I wish they would hold. I want these teams to recapture and own the weirdness.
I love this logo. I have to say.
Me too.
It's weird. It's cartoony. I don't know. I'm into it. And then and on top of it all, it looks like it's on the cover of like a Peachy folder.
Oh yeah, that's the kind of that football aesthetic from that era, because this would have been the program that you got when you went to the game, I would imagine.
Totally.
And pair this with the fight song that the Bengals had, which would have come out at that time, because it's got a tuba that acts as the Bengal.
The lion roar.
Yeah, it's Cincinnati Bengals, and it's just so like, ooh. Guess we're gonna have some fun tonight, Cincinnati.
I mean, the Bengal almost reminds me of like out of a cartoon, like the Pink Panther or somebody, because it's like he's sneaking with the ball.
Yeah,
but at the same time, he's pouncing and has action. Like, this is physically impossible.
And the helmet just flew off. Like
the helmet flying off.
I mean, it kind of looks like he's high and he just stole that football.
Yeah.
And he's running away from it like, oh no, the coppers are going to get me.
And he doesn't know what to do with it either. He's just like, I got this.
Now what? Yeah. Millie.
Yeah.
Your Bengals are going to the Super Bowl.
It is true.
Give me a rundown of your emotional state when Joe Burrow won that game.
Oh, I cried. I mean, tears of joy. I believed they could do it in my heart, but my head was like, nah. And I even texted y'all. I'm like, well, there are 3 people out of 8 on this panel before, from Fox before this or whatever it was before the game. 3 of them chose the Bengals. So there's hope. And 2 of them were the only 2 women. So I give them extra points because they're just usually better at predicting games, if you ask me. So those 2 specific women, when it comes to predicting, they usually win the belt. So anyway, long story short, I believed it could happen. And it did. And the joy, the rapture, it was everything I could have ever wanted. I was the
team of destiny. This is the Bengals are the team of destiny. I have to say though, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are falling into a scary pattern where they'll put up like a ton of points, like get 3 touchdowns in a quarter, and then just give the game away. And I don't know what they've done it several times now, and it's kind of concerning. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, what's going on over there in Kansas City?
I think he took notes off of like Russell Wilson's like worst tendencies of
He definitely
playing
looked like that
hero
in that
ball
game.
and like chase. I mean, just not taking the simple check downs and trying to make the big,
Holding onto the
sort of
ball too
splash
long
plays.
and
Yeah, and it's just
getting
kind of like,
sacked
and it's just, yeah, I feel like, and Rodgers against San Francisco completely fell apart like that too. And
yeah,
I don't know. To me, it almost renews my love for Russ and going like, see, it's not just our quarterback, it's not just our superstar quarterback that
yeah.
can like, drop a turd on
Meltdown.
the 50-yard line. Look at all these other superstar quarterbacks. They're
Well,
doing
and maybe he'll see it and see that the two teams who made it through were the teams. I mean, Burrow, yeah, he's kind of a one-man offense to a certain extent, but he doesn't play hero ball. He's really
No, he
efficient.
doesn't. He plays within his limitations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Stafford that's absolutely true of Stafford as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
We know that Stafford is gonna choke, but like I feel like Russell mimics the success that is around him. That is one of his skill sets. Like what happened with Tom Brady when Tom Brady was just demonstrating again and again and again that being a pocket passer was the way to succeed for him in the league. Russ turned his game more into a Brady style game where he stopped running as much. And I know part of that is that he slowed down. But he can still scramble for yards. And when he does that, the team is more successful, but he was trying to be more prestige like Brady because it proved successful.
Totally. Yeah. Let's get 15 yards of a chunk play instead of like getting the 3 yards and a first down and living to, another day.
Totally.
Here's a thing. I was reading an analysis, and so I went back and watched the game of the analysis was on the offense for the LOB Super Bowl win, right? And they were talking about specifically how the defense really overshadowed that team because it was, dynastically good, like one of the great defenses of all time. But the offense was no joke.
It was an explosive offense that scored.
It was. And Russ, as we've talked about a lot, was not asked to do a ton in that offense. He was throwing maybe like 18 times a game, and then Marshawn Lynch is running 55% of the time. But the way Russ played in that game versus how he's playing today is so vastly different. And the way he was playing then is way more Russ ball, which is he was hitting Doug Baldwin in the middle for like intermediate yards, like 12 yards and getting those third downs. And he was getting the ball out fast. Like that offensive line was better than it is now, but not by a lot. And I think what changed is that Russ was actually getting the ball out within 2 seconds and not holding on to it too much. He was doing his little spinning pirouettes and stuff, but
that's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean the offensive line was the highest paid position unit on that team.
Yeah,
and the following year too. Yeah,
yeah, and Giacomini was real great at getting people to throw swings at him and getting those 15 yards. Yeah. Anyway. Speaking of Seahawks, the Seahawks are out of the playoffs. The Seahawks then fired Ken Norton Jr. And while they haven't officially hired their defensive coordinator yet, by all reports, it's going to defensive line coach Clint Hurt, who was in the running along with Sean Desai, Ed Donatel, and that cat from
Roy Witt Jr.
Yes.
Why haven't they?
That is a question I was trying to answer today, and I can't
still
come
holding
up with
on for the
Sean.
the
I think
game. Well, the word is that they're hiring a guy from the Vikings who was their pass game coordinator, but they haven't.
Okay. Well, the Vikings haven't been able to finalize their stuff. So okay.
I think they're still trying to work a few more moves to the staff, and then they probably want to officially announce it all together.
Yeah.
At once. So that's what the holdup I think is.
Yeah, totally. I agree. But Curtis, give me some of your thoughts. How do you feel about how things are shaking out?
I'm one diehard 12 that's super stoked about Clint Hurt getting the gig, because it's the emphasis is going to be, to me, that signals the emphasis of the defense is going to go back towards the defensive line. It's going to be, I think we're going to see the likes of Carlos Dunlap and Daryl Taylor, going at the quarterback from the edges. I don't think we're going to see him dropping back into coverage in those weird sort of ways. I don't think we'll see Poona Ford doing that anymore. A defensive line coach wants his boys up front to rush the passer. And I think that given the fact that he is from the Vic Fangio tree, I expect to see more creativity in the backfield with how they play zone packages. And I think that there's probably going to be a special unique role carved out for Jamal Adams.
I agree.
That doesn't require him to be like a deep safety.
Right.
So
that's the thing about a Fangio defense, is that Fangio defense in its just base look is a too high safety, which has kind of been the trend to beat these quarterbacks like Mahomes and these Rodgers and Russell Wilson. How do you think that this defense, or if this defense, will diverge from a more traditional Fangio defense?
So it won't totally be the Fangio defense. I think that the Fangio defense is mostly how we're probably going to see the difference in Seattle. Is I don't suspect we're going to see a shift into the 3-4 look that Fangio always runs. I think Carroll's going to stay true to his 4-3 overlook. There'll be 4 defensive linemen instead of 3. There'll be 3 linebackers instead of 4. But I think that they'll try, and I think they're going to try and adopt the back end principles that Fangio is more known for, with the zones and stuff that aren't the cover 3. I think Fangio rarely ever did cover 3.
Yeah.
The fact that they've been, they're bringing in Ed Donatel, who's been running that defense for the last few years and has followed Fangio around for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Shows me that there's going to be a big shakeup in how they do things in the secondary.
Yeah. And the personnel, I think, fits more of a Fangio defense. Their defensive backs don't fit that Carroll cover 3, defensive back.
They don't have the Brandon Browners anymore, and the Richard Shermans.
And the Richard Shermans and the, these tall, rangy 6'2" guys. Yeah. I don't know. Very exciting. I think it's interesting. A lot of us have said, Pete Carroll is 70 years old and he's done this defense forever, and, teach an old dog new tricks, but maybe we can teach an old dog new tricks.
I think the old dog's looking for some new tricks.
Yeah. I think the old dog's looking for some new tricks. It gets me kind of excited. To transition into this, once again, Carroll is giving his defensive coordinator opportunity to a man of color. And this is an issue that has been brought up to light again in the NFL. Brian Flores has leveled a number of accusations against teams for blatantly racist things. Alana, do you want to talk a little bit about this? What are your feelings?
The first thing I want to say is that yes, we're giving it looks as though the defensive coordinator is going to be given to a man of color, but I want to actually say that it's being given to a black man. I think that's important in this conversation, because 68% of the league is black. if I'm not mistaken.
70%.
70%. Sorry, I was.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
mean, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and we have seen so few head coaches and so few general managers who ascend to that position. And it's been well known for the last probably decade that the Rooney Rule is a joke and isn't doing anything.
Yes.
And that the real impact points come from the awarding of draft picks to people who escalate candidates of color. One of the things that has gotten really under my skin in this whole conversation is that, yes, prior to the hiring of Mike McDaniel in Miami and
Lovie Smith
in Houston, what's his face in Pittsburgh, Tomlin was the only black coach. But Robert Saleh is a man of color, and so was somebody else. I can't remember right off the top of my head. So there were actually 3 coaches of color in the league, and every single piece of conversation that was being had of it was erasing their color. Now, obviously, that has 2 effects. One is to make the assumption that we have one black coach and then 31 white coaches, which is what's erasing them, Robert Saleh and the other person I cannot remember.
Rivera, right?
Thank you, Ron Rivera. Yes.
Ron Rivera.
I appreciate that. I was spacing it.
Yeah, I had to think about that.
And so we were erasing their experience. We were erasing the racism that they've experienced in that conversation. But then at the same time, it is still a little bit, picking at a scab to say, well, you forgot 2 people. And that's not the angle I'm taking. It does seem, and what is interesting to me is that shortly after Brian Flores made the allegations, put forth the suit, we started to see some hiring that was more in line with what we would want out of a more equitable league. Yeah. Are we anywhere close? Absolutely not. Am I excited about Clint Hurt? 100%, because that man is a leader, and it seems to me that they're filling out the staff to make sure that he's successful, so that he, and I think you brought this up, Curtis, but maybe it was you, Daniel, he can ascend to the Seahawks head coach when Carroll retires. I think that is there is a strong possibility that is the ascension plan.
Agreed.
I think that's certainly possible. Yeah.
Because Clint Hurt is a leader. Like, he is a natural leader. I want to follow him. I like him. And I'm hoping that that's the direction we go. The NFL is a racist organization because of the owners. The owners are not going to change the way they operate without some incentive to do that, unfortunately. And so we need to see more owners of color, in addition to seeing more GMs of color, presidents of color, CEOs of color, and coaches of color.
Yeah. And I just, I don't want to downplay how courageous Brian Flores is being in this. I mean, he's all but said he's falling on his sword for the cause. Like, he knows that he's maybe taken the Colin Kaepernick route. And
his career's over.
He's not really gone for much in the way of monetary damages at all. He just wants the change. Yeah, he wants the change. He wants to see the change.
Well, what's really interesting to me too is with what's happening with the Texans, which seemed to be a job he was very much in the running for. But at the same time, so he puts the lawsuit out prior to a number of coaching positions being announced. And I didn't entirely understand the point of that if you really wanted the job. And I think what it did was reinforce, this is not about me getting the job I want. Yeah. This is about me trying to put light on this. And I'm trying to do it at a time that you're not going to say this is just sour grapes. But at the same time, on a personal level, it does seem as though it is kind of the Colin Kaepernick route, right? Like, he made himself not unhireable, but a very complicated, difficult choice
Mhm.
within how this NFL world works with hiring your coaches. And by all reports, and as I'm starting to dig deeper, especially into the Texans position, because I'm of course thrilled that Lovie Smith has gotten this job, but what I learned.
Can I just say,
trying to do
Lovie
some-
Smith's epic beard is just like, mwah.
Yeah. What I learned in digging into that was he was not really even a candidate, and if anything, was probably going to be a Rooney interview.
Totally.
And we had all heard these rumblings about Josh McCown, and it was like, what? Why? Like, what's his experience? What's his coaching? Why on earth would you give this job to Josh McCown when there are so many great coaches?
Yeah.
And especially Black men available, ready to coach. And that's not even entering into your mind when you think about the culture of your team. You're not thinking about the diversity of the league, of your coaching staff, of your team. That you're talking about Josh McCown. Like, there were a number of people that they could be talking about, and they're talking about fucking Josh McCown.
Right.
And the reality that I have seeing the more I read into it is that Flores probably lost that job, but he might have never gotten that job if he hadn't done the lawsuit anyway, and it could have gone to Josh McCown, and he would have just looked like an asshole who was mad that they gave the job to somebody else.
Yeah.
But why on earth would you hand your team over to some unproven entity? Like, it just boggles the mind. Where, you know, I mean, I think we've all.
Everyone's looking for the next Sean McVay, is what it is.
Yeah, but we've all been.
Or
in
the
trouble.
Kyle Shanahan.
We don't understand the hiring.
The ownership down there, and Mike, because I've been sort of tracking the Deshaun Watson saga down there and all the reasons why he wants out. And it's so the guy who originally owned the team passed away, and it's been sort of being it's the controls of it have gone to his son. His son is kind of nuts, and he has brought in one of his besties to be sort of like the spiritual leader of the organization.
Oof.
And he is like he's a fire and brimstone, like evangelical, just like extreme sort of like Bible thumping. Like I don't want to talk poorly about, Christian religions and all that sort of stuff, but the guy's on the extreme end of that whole thing, and he wants everybody to to come in to like prayer group meetings before practice. Just the whole like 9 yards of this, and so it's like an infringement on a lot of people's probably personal beliefs and stuff. And so I don't know much about this McNown guy, but I think he is in sort of that kind of,
culture.
Yeah. And so, they
White people
just
culture.
sort of thought, hey, he's a great guy, and he quarterbacked for years in the league, and, was on Peterson's third string quarterback in Philadelphia, and Doug Peterson sort of swings that way too. And so it's just I'm just kind of reading between the lines as to why he was even in that strong of consideration. And I think it's from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, so, Brian Flores, it feels like a million years ago now in sort of NFL time, but he was fired from that job in Miami. But like, let's not forget, he won like the last 8 games or something like that.
He was coaching his ass off for 2 seasons in a row
without any sort of help from ownership. Like, ownership was actually actively working against him, and he was still able to win some games. I mean, this dude is a for real good coach. Yeah. The Giants giving that job to Dowell before even interviewing him is 100% racist. And you can't convince me otherwise. Like, that was beyond the pale.
But it's very clear of his story from interviewing for the Broncos as well, that he went into that being like,
absolutely.
great, another Rooney interview. Like, and they deny it and they say, he's a very real candidate. But I'm gonna believe the guy who said these dudes were super late and hungover and didn't listen to what I said. I'm glad somebody took notes. Bullshit. He was in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck you, John Elway.
Oh, yeah. Fuck you, John Elway. Yeah. Anyway, I'm super excited to see where this whole thing plays out. And
I'm not convinced he's going to end up in the Kaepernick realm of being, blacklisted indefinitely from the league. He's got too much of a track record as a coach. I think the league's going to be patient and seeing how this whole thing sort of plays out. But, I got to think that some freaking smart owner and GM out there is going to look at the work that he did working for an asshole owner down in Miami who is trying to bribe him to throw games, who is trying to get him, who is trying to coerce
to talk to quarterbacks who he shouldn't talk to yet,
and to tamper with a quarterback on another roster. I mean, he put up with so much shit down there from Stephen Ross. And he was still winning games like some smart front office.
It was straight out of the movie Big League, right? And you can almost picture him in the locker room with the players, this is so wrong in today's world, but slowly taking the clothes off of the new owner every time they won. Hey guys, let's stick it to the man, right?
If Jody Allen hires him in 3 or 4 years to replace, not to take that job away from Clint Hurt, who we were just talking about, but as a Seahawk fan, as a diehard Seahawk fan, as that being my number one team, I would not be disappointed.
Correct. I would be excited. Talk about culture. That dude's got a boatload of it. He's got principle and honesty and
Well, I don't know if y'all remember, I didn't understand why he was fired in the first place.
We
learned about this, the more it was
like, because he wasn't being a team player, because he wasn't on board. Yeah.
I'm not sure that this class action lawsuit is actually going to get legs. I'm not sure it's going to.
Well, I think there's
the way it's framed and under its legal umbrella, I don't know that it has legs. What I do see within it is the allegations regarding being offered payment to throw games, and the fact that there does seem to be backup and receipts on this, and not just from him. I'm hoping that goes somewhere, and I'm hoping that has serious penalties against owners, because that's where things need to be. That's where we got to stick it to them, right? Is in the ownership. That's what needs to change.
Yeah,
the ownership.
And if I was a fan of Miami, man, I would be begging them to get my owner out of there. I'll tell you, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Bad owners ruin teams. Yep. Those teams that are perennially losers, they're perennially losers because their owners suck.
Nintendo. Sorry.
I'm just thinking about the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh no, I was thinking about the Mariners. That's what I. That's why
or the Seahawks during the Bearing years.
The Ken Bearing years were god awful. It was just. I lay awake at night dreading, that Jody Allen is going to sell to some guy who's going to come in with
Jeff Bezos.
Oh God, no, that cannot happen. What's that?
If Jody Allen sells to Jeff Bezos, I am burning my Seahawks jerseys.
Yeah.
I'm out. That's it.
I'm out too.
Yeah. I can't do it. I love my Seahawks. No. I can't go that far. Bezos, if you're listening to this podcast, don't you dare get your mitts on my Seahawks. I will come after you.
It's going to be Balmer.
Anyway.
It's going to be a bunch of head fun.
Oh, Curtis,
from the Bay Area that are going to buy this team.
We're going to get another decade of Ken Bearing. They're going to move the headquarters to Silicon Valley and
just hang on to the team.
Super Bowl coming up Sunday. We got Bengals versus the Los Angeles Rams. Here we are in the NFC West, having to watch another NFC West team in the Super Bowl. I think the only person that's gone to more Super Bowls than the NFC West in the last 10 years is Tom Brady. But here we go. We're going to be watching the Rams versus Cincinnati Bengals. Millie, tell me your thoughts. What are you thinking? What are your predictions for this game? How do you think it's going to shake out? What's the storyline here? Is it going to be a great Super Bowl?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a high scoring, super fun affair. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to come down to a field goal.
Yeah.
And I think as much as I love kickers, even, I mean, I keep making fun of the Bengals whole, this is why you draft a kicker. They just keep saying it, but they may finally win that argument if McPherson keeps it going. I mean, the kid's amazing. So I'm taking the Bengals because of course I am. And this little guy just wanted to say hello and let you all know that the Bengals are going to win. He's been a fan for 8 years and he's ready. Here it comes. This is Checkers. Told you all about. So that's Checkers. And he says the Bengals win. I also do think that there will be at least one defensive score in this game.
I like it.
And I'm going to take the Bengals and I'm going to take them 27-23.
Ooh.
All right. Alana, give me your rundown. Give me your predictions. How's this going to go?
So I think that this is probably going to be a mediocre Super Bowl,
Mhm.
but not like Rams Patriots from a few years ago. I think Sean McVay.
Right.
Do you remember that game? That game was disgusting.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
what was it?
it was.
14-3, 10-3. And it wasn't even because they played good defense. It was just like, ugh. I think this game ends. I think it's over pretty early, like start of the third quarter, and I think that I think it ends 35-24 with some garbage points or garbage time points, and I think it's that way because Stafford's going to choke and McVay's going to choke, and they'll put some points up in the end. But I think the Bengals. I think they run away with it, kind of come out. We know that Burrow can withstand a pass rush and take a lot of hits, which is really the biggest advantage that the Rams have is that part of their defense, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think that he takes a lot of hits, but he completes a lot of passes. And I think Mixon has a big day. And I think it's 35-24 at the end of the game.
That is not far from my prediction. I think what I envision, this is how I see this going. I actually think the first half is going to be kind of exciting. And I think most of the points are going to be scored in the first half. And then both teams are going to kind of bear down in the second half. And it's going to be one of those games that, then in the third quarter and most of the way through the fourth, not a whole lot happens. And then we might have a little bit of scoring, at the end of the fourth. I'm taking the Bengals 35-28. Curtis.
God, I have a hard time shaking my deep state theory about the NFL and those frickin' Rams, and how they're desperate for those LA Fairweather fans who aren't even Rams fans to climb on board that frickin' team down there. So it can be a big success story. But I think the NFL is gonna fall on their own faces with this. I'm picking Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals to smack the holy crap out of these Rams and their Fairweather fan base down there and disappoint all these little 4-year-old kids that bought freaking Matt Stafford jerseys and all this sort of crap. I think, you know what? I think the Bengals are going to walk away with this thing. I think they're going to walk away with this thing 38-17.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
You know
it.
what? They're playing with a lot of moxie. They're playing with house money. I think the pressure is on McVay. I think the pressure is on Stafford. I think the pressure
Agreed.
is on Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
I think they've thrown all the chips on the table for this thing. And I see Stafford throwing picks.
Mhm.
And I think Burrow's the better quarterback. I'm a big Burrow believer now. I've been sort of reluctant to jump on his bandwagon.
Welcome.
His performances in the playoffs have won me over. I think there's
That
something about that kid.
whole
If you
team.
get to him 9 times in a game and he still finds a way to beat you, that's
Mhm.
fucking special football right there.
Mhm.
He
was taking over games like Russell Wilson will take over games. You see that look in his eye, and now he's like running for those first downs, and he's doing whatever he can to, just kind of like take over that game. But that whole team is playing free and playing loose and playing confident. Like they just have the look of a team who knows they can win again. I mean, they just outdueled Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They just look like they know they can take down anybody. And
that was the team that I was at coming out of the win over Buffalo. I was going like, well, the Chiefs are going to win this whole thing after that game. And I just feel like Burrow has no fear in him whatsoever. And I think that transcends through the rest of that roster.
So I thought it'd be fun if I asked y'all a couple of quick rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
On your predictions for the season. And just quick note, I am changing my prediction to 27-24 because I said it was going to be a field goal and my math didn't work. So Dan.
Yeah.
Who scores the first touchdown?
Joe Burrow.
So he's running it in?
Like he's running it in?
Who scores the first touchdown?
Scores it, yeah.
Yeah, Joe. Well, he passed. It's a pass. Yeah.
Who walks into the end zone then?
Well, it's got to be Jamar.
Okay. Curtis, first touchdown.
Odell.
Alana.
Who's number 85 on the Bengals? Higgins? Is it Higgins?
Say it Higgins or
No, it's gonna be Mixon. Sorry, it's Mixon.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I also have OBJ.
All right.
Curtis, how many turnovers?
In totality?
Totality.
4.
Alana.
4. 3 for the Rams, 1 for the Bengals.
Dan.
5.
I'm going 2. All right, Dan, how many field goals?
Field goals. I'm saying there's going to be 4 field goals.
Alana, how many field goals?
3.
Curtis.
2.
I'm going 4. More passing yards. Joe Burrow or the other guy?
Let's all say it at the same time. Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Everyone wants Burrow.
I'm giving it to Stafford. I think Stafford throws for more yards, but he also throws 3 picks.
I completely agree with you. Actually, I think Burrow's smarter than to take all the yards. I think he spreads it around. I think they get their running game going.
Matt Stafford's the master at getting garbage yards.
Oh yeah, he's going to throw those interceptions though.
Yeah.
All right, Alana, who's the MVP?
I mean, I picked the Bengals, and the media narrative is Burrow, so it's going to be Burrow. I mean, the quarterback's going to win the MVP in a game like this, I think.
The only time a quarterback doesn't win the MVP is, number one, they played poorly, or somebody else just played so much, like the running back ran for 250 yards or something like that.
Or the defense has
or the defense just took over a game. Right.
Or all of the scoring is done by your kicker.
Yeah.
Curtis, who's your MVP?
Burrow.
And Dan, is yours also?
Yeah, I'm
Burrow?
going Burrow. Yeah.
I'm gonna say McPherson just for fun.
Good luck. Good. Put all the chips into the middle of the table.
All in, baby. All in on the kicker. Why not? My commissioner for my fantasy league will find that quite amusing. All right, thanks. That was my round robin. And just for the record, I did choose the Bengals to win last time, 27-24, and they did.
Well done.
I nailed it. I finally nailed the score. Yes.
Nice.
Right? All right. At some point, I'm going to compile all these facts and figures and put them on the record for us, so we'll know. Put them on the dork board forever.
That's our little actuary.
Yeah. All right. So we got the Super Bowl coming up, and that's going to be super fun. But we've also had the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. That's been going on for, I don't know, what, a week, 2 weeks now? When did it start?
It started on Friday,
Last week,
Jesus.
Well,
4 days ago.
well,
This
it
is
actually started Wednesday of last week. if
oh
you-
man. I opened a show this weekend, so time has no meaning in my head. And some kind of exciting things have been happening already in the Olympics. Most recently, Nathan Chen scored
The
high score for the
short
short. And that's pretty cool. And by the way, I watched that performance, and it is so impeccably smooth.
Yeah.
I can't. It didn't look human.
hmm
Yeah. But Alana, I know you are a big fan of the Olympics. What have been your thoughts so far?
I have my favorite event in the Olympics is short track speed skating because it's fucking chaos and it's fast and it's wild and it's lucky and I feel like this is a problematic scenario where the Olympics are kind of getting overshadowed by some bad reffing. Like the judges are making a lot of really iffy calls, like in the quarters of the men's 1000. One of the American skaters went down like before the seventh block, and usually when that happens they call the start back, but they didn't, and so that skater was just done, and like it was really unfortunate. The Americans have done really poorly in the speed skating. They've done really poorly overall. It doesn't matter that much, but the thing that's been a little bit like, what's going on here, is that every single call has benefited the Chinese. They've won 2 gold medals because of really iffy calls.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting to watch. But Fontana from Italy won her 10th medal as a part of this. And it was really nice to see her skate around with the tricolore. It's been unfortunate to see people like Mame Baini, who's one of the best women American speed skaters, not do as well, but hopefully I think she's got another event coming up. I've really enjoyed being able to share it with my kid, especially the speed skating. We also watched a lot of luge together, which was really fun, and watching that women's luge on Sunday. I had like intense poopy problems over the weekend, and so I just laid on my couch and watched the Olympics all day Sunday. I didn't move, and so I have a lot.
That sounds
like
amazing.
It's jumbled, but like watching the women's luge where it was like crash was really disappointing. And all of this is really built up to say, I think that China is doing a fucking horrible job. I think their opening ceremony was garbage. I think that they didn't put any effort into it whatsoever. And I think they're using the whole thing to mask over the fact that they're committing genocide on the Uyghur people,
Mm.
and they are using this celebration as a smokescreen for propaganda. And it's really disappointing because sport is supposed to bring people together, and unfortunately, they're using it for their own purposes in a really duplicitous manner. So
I totally. So how do you feel? What do you think of the nuclear power plant background in the slope? Have you been watching that?
are you talking about the slope style stuff?
Uh-huh.
I didn't read it in that way, but I might not have. I might have been too focused on the jumps.
I mean, the power plant is like prominent, like center in the background. And a lot of people have been asking, like, is that intentional? Like, you know, so I don't know. I don't have an answer to that myself, but I did find it peculiar, you know, and a little ominous. You know, you're watching these people go down the slopes, and just like right behind them is these giant, you know, nuclear power plant.
God, I was oblivious to that.
I was kind of oblivious.
Now I gotta
to it
like
until
watch
someone-
the Olympics just to see that.
You should be watching the Olympics to begin with. It's
I
great.
New
know,
Zealand
I
won
got,
their very first gold.
Yeah.
What was that?
New Zealand won their very first gold.
Oh yeah, that was
did they?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yay for the Kiwis.
Yeah.
she did great.
I didn't actually register the whole power plant thing until somebody really pointed it out to me. And it is possible that I feel like we are all so highly on edge that we may occasionally read more into things than what is there, as far as finding a place where you can create a ramp and a slope and something high enough, and that you have enough room to create it and make it high enough that you can make clearances.
Yeah.
It may have just been like, well, if we put the Olympic logo on it, maybe it won't look so bad.
All right.
Let's build it in front of this power plant. It's like, you know, a lot of the buildings that they built they're stunning and they're beautiful. Like, you know, it never fails. Most countries they build it. The sustainability of it and all the other is a whole nother matter, but especially the night shots when everything is lit up, it's pretty neat. And as always, I mean, there's horrible stories about stuff, and then there's wonderful stories about stuff, and you just sort of have to be sure to put on your political filters with all of it and try to make sure that you're slightly aware of propaganda when it's coming your way.
Yeah.
But for me, I do try to really focus in on the athletes and cross my fingers that things are fair. I mean, there's enough history. We all know about the illusion of the past and people being paid off and all kinds of insanity. So it's, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. I'd like to think we're better. It's a lot harder to cheat now than it used to be. That's for sure.
For sure.
I will say that, yes, Nathan Chen's performance was almost perfection. And if you haven't seen it, check it out if you ever want to know what male figure skating is all about, and why it is athletic and beautiful, and go watch it. It's 3.5 minutes of your time. It's worth it.
Yeah.
For me, what was actually my favorite thing about that short event was Jason Brown, who is a longtime American figure skater. This will be his last Olympics. He is usually the one who keeps everyone else's spirits up, regardless of how he does. And he is known for his artistry. He does not have a quad. His short program was so beautiful that he came in 6th, which means he's in the final group of men, which is a huge accomplishment. His skating will make you cry. It is beautiful. It is ballet, modern dance on ice, and just every moment. As performers, as you all are, you will understand, especially watching him skate, what skating can be when it comes to creating something that is athleticism combined with artistry, which I feel like a lot more of the events are now centered on. A lot of what is being done with slope style, with acrobatics and aerials is about combining athleticism and artistry as a singular idea. And I
Mhm.
think that's a really cool progression that's happened in the Olympics.
Yeah.
I wanna
Specifically the Winter Olympics.
Yes, specifically the
Totally.
Winter Olympics. But I do want to say, if you like chaos, tonight starts one of my favorite chaotic events, which is snowboard cross.
Yes, that's my other favorite.
Snowboard cross. I'm gonna direct this to Curtis because I feel like he's looking at us like, what are these Olympics? What are these things you're talking about? Snowboard cross is basically like motocross on snowboards. And
there's
I
a
guess,
ski one too.
yeah, I like this stuff, but yeah, and it is absolute chaos. I heard this year they're not putting as many people on the course at the same time, which is a
Come
little
on.
That's not as
unfortunate,
fun. Come on.
but I understand it because the last Olympics there were so many crashes. It was just fantastic.
They were running like 6-man heats, weren't they?
Yeah, I think this time it's 4, but it is a lot of fun, and if you want more chaos and action, I would say check out some snowboard cross.
And I mean, there are jumps and shit, and like they aren't. I mean, people will run into one another and wipe out. It's great.
I
Super
have to
fun.
check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sold on that one.
Yeah.
That and
I
curling,
don't know.
they do. How's the curling going?
So the American mixed doubles team didn't make it in, and it was a really like unfortunate scenario where they lost to a Swiss team, to the Swiss team. But I don't think that John Schuster, I don't think his team has started yet, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
And
they've been doing mixed.
yeah, my best friend is a part of the same curling club as like half of Team USA. So I get
Nice.
constant updates about what's going on.
Well,
So
it sounds like similar to the US at the last Winter Olympics this year. The Italians won today, and they've never won it. So that was a neat. Watching their celebration was pretty exciting.
cool. Of the mixed double.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Please tell
And
me
they
my
came out
Canadians
of
are doing
nowhere.
well. Are my Canadians doing well?
Probably, but not in that particular event.
They beat the US hockey team in the round robin last night. That was hard to
Go Canada.
watch. There'll be more. But I think at this point they only meet again if they end up in the gold medal match against each other. So we'll see.
Which they probably will.
They probably will. The other teams are not looking real strong.
Nope.
Yeah.
And they're having to play masked, like
Yes.
COVID
full
masks
Yeah.
for the hockey only.
I thought it was just for that.
Yeah,
one game.
well, the COVID hockey rinks, apparently that's the sport that is the easiest to contract COVID, apparently. The studies have been showing. There's something about the temperatures of the rink and how the bug sort of hangs around.
Well, it's been
serious issue.
decimating the NHL. They've postponed so many games. Yeah.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the rest of the Olympics. We have a little bit more to look forward to and more to talk about next week. I'd like to move into dorking. I want to share what I've been dorking out about. I totally binged on a new podcast. It's just a one and done podcast called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. And
Shit.
I need it's on Spotify.
This.
You need to listen to this. They go after Mark Driscoll. I mean, they really do a deep dive into where he came from.
Do you know he's got a new fucking cult?
Yeah, and they go into it, and it goes into all of his manipulations, his abuses, the toxicity, how he runs his church like a cult. And the people that he surrounded himself with, and the way he would just, it's fucking Game of Thrones is what it is. I mean, it's bonkers.
Who made it?
I can't remember the host's name, but the host is also a church planter and of a progressive kind, and who, you know, there's a lot of people in that community that did not like Driscoll and didn't like what he was doing, and it gets into some stuff that is just truly like takes your breath away. The kinds of stuff he said, what he got away with, I mean, it's crazy. I highly recommend it. Yeah.
Looks like it's hosted by Mike Cosper.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. It's great. I mean, the research involved, the people they talk to, the people on the inside, it's good stuff.
I know nothing about this, so I am.
Oh, gosh.
So Mars Hill, it was a mega church in Seattle. Mark Driscoll was a charismatic celebrity pastor, and then it came out in like 2012 or 2013 or something like that.
I remember this.
Just this gross abuse that happened in this church, the spiritual abuse, emotional abuse. He treated it like a cult. I mean, Mark Driscoll, he's a pastor for a Christian church, but it may as well be, you know, the Love Joy cult or whatever. Like, that's how he operates. And yeah, anyway, really called it out. And now that this podcast has come out, now his new church in Arizona, you're going to be shocked, but there's abuse claims coming out of there too.
Is he beating people?
No, but the way he
Like emotional abuse?
Oh,
yeah,
truly. Like, his whole thing is about, like, he's a trainer of men, and it's just the worst parts of toxic masculinity. The way he would like use people and get rid of them, it's truly horrifying. He's a monster.
That's kind of like what's going down there with the Houston Texans, right? With that wacko down there.
Yes.
I mean, that's the kind of shit that, like, that's
what I thought of. Is it Mark Driscoll who's
to get his creepy ass out of there? He's just like, God. I mean, what does it say about your organization where somebody who's like a legitimate creep, when it comes to, like, you know, shit that you shouldn't be creepy about, and he wants to get the fuck out because people are whack down there. Like, it's like,
agreed. Anyway, check it out. Highly recommend. I think it's only on Spotify. I burned through it. Alana, what are you dorking out about?
I am truly enjoying the TV show Single Drunk Female on Freeform. It's streaming on Hulu. And it's just about a 28-year-old, so young millennial, who is overcoming alcoholism, and she moves back to Boston and lives with her mom, and it's very good, and I enjoy it a lot. It seems very realistic. I say seems because it is not an experience I have fighting or dealing with alcoholism, but it definitely seems like it's rooted in reality. And I'm also tremendously enjoying The Righteous Gemstones, which feels like a natural pairing. Yeah, with the rise and fall of
Mars Hill. Yeah, talk about charismatic church. Right. Yeah, totally.
And then lastly, Somebody Somewhere, also on HBO. It's Bridget Everett's series. She moves back to Iowa. It's really good.
Love her.
Yeah. And the dude there's a guy in it whose name I don't know, but he's he refers to himself as Gay Skeletor. And if that helps you picture who he is, because it's a really good description. He's putting forth quite the performance. And there are a number of people who are putting forth career best performances in it. And it's a Duplass Brothers joint. Right. They produced it. So I think it's well worth it. I loved
the Duplass Brothers. When I saw previews for that, I was like, I got to watch that. That is at the top of my list.
Yeah. And we're awaiting Inventing Anna, which is the Netflix series that comes out on Friday that's about the griftiest of grifters in New York high society. And she just grifts, and she has this really unusual accent. And Julia Garner plays the title role, and she's, pretty phenomenal. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Cool. Lots
All
of
TV stuff. Yeah.
Millie, what are you dorking out about?
I am excited to share that I'm actually dorking out about something hardcore right now. I binged in a record amount of time Archive 81 on Netflix. This show is right up my alley, and especially right up my binge alley. Archive 81 is based on a podcast that I don't know anything about. But basically it's a found footage based story where the main character is someone who restores archival tape. So he does videotape, audio tape. That's kind of his job. And he is played by, and I'm probably saying this wrong, but Mamadou Athi.
Ati, it's silent H. Yeah.
Okay. And he's incredible, which he has to be, because so much of the filmmaking is serious close-ups of this person watching tape. But of course, the story is more complicated than it appears. And it's funny, what it reminded me of immediately is if you ever listen to a relatively locally produced podcast called The Black Tapes, it reminded me of that podcast, which was fantastic, and then didn't know what to do with itself. But I loved that podcast early on, in that it centers on this sort of, what is any supernatural? Is it real? And cults and this music sound that is, I think in that it's a death sound. But these are, the archetypes that it has going within the tape. So of course, as we go, it's sort of, how are these people all ultimately connected? Because clearly they're connected somehow. And this guy basically gets hired to restore these tapes all by himself, and this place in like the Catskill Mountains. So of course he's alone. And he has reasons for people to doubt his sanity, which of course helps reinforce if it's happening or not. I just loved it. I worked through it very quickly. I really enjoyed it. There has to be a season 2. There better be a season 2. But I can't recommend it enough. It's not super violent or gory or scary, which I was afraid of when I first started it. And it's not.
And it's on Netflix?
It's Netflix, yeah.
Netflix.
And there's only, I think, 8 episodes. So it's also not a huge...
Super interesting. That's right up my alley. Yeah. Curtis, what are you dorking out about?
I've been watching the Clone Wars.
No.
After all these years, I've finally given into it, and I started watching it last week, and I'm almost towards the end of season 2, and it's like, I don't know. It's, I hated the prequel films. I was just like, people like Mike Gilson and other people are like, oh, I gotta watch the Clone Wars, they're great. And I'm just like, why the frick would they ever make a television show off of the prequel Star Wars movies? Those things were turkeys. But it's I'm enjoying it. I feel like, Lucas just should have just created television shows and not done any of these films after the first trilogy, sort of thing like that. Because the television shows are great. I mean, it's all episodic storytelling anyway. Totally. So why wouldn't you just have a fucking television show? Why are you spending why are you making 3.5 hour long films and with actors?
It's just the same story over and over.
You could just ask the same question of Marvel, though, right? Like
the Marvel shows I love, but
like, no, I mean the Marvel movies.
I would say that the Marvel films, in comparison to the Star Wars movies, by and large, like I enjoy a lot more. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I just to me, it's like my escapist in long story.
I haven't seen the Clone Wars, but I feel like with
they're really
Filoni
good.
taking over
like
Star Wars, it might be required viewing.
You don't even understand, like, the number of references to characters from the Clone Wars that is happening right now in Book of Boba Fett.
That's
like,
what I'm. That's
I can't wait, Curtis, for you to meet all of these characters as they were originally created that you are currently watching in one of your favorite shows.
So now I want to go back to season 1 of Mandalorian to like watch that shit from the beginning because of all the stuff that I'm watching through the Clone Wars, and I can go like,
Yeah.
okay.
Which I'm sure is also going to tie into the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show.
Which I'm stoked about because who
me
doesn't
too.
love themselves in Obi-Wan Kenobi?
And Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan. I mean, come on.
Well, Alana, but
Well, Lana's, she's tapping out right now, but
You tapped out when we were talking about Winter Olympics, so it's all
it's
fair
all,
love and war.
all fair. I feel bad that I'm like skipping out on the Olympics to watch the Clone Wars though. Like this is like,
Why do you feel bad about that? Like, like
because
what you like.
I used to, at one point in my life, I used to like the Olympics, but I haven't been getting into them lately. Yeah.
Maybe this is the year, Curtis.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good chat. We'll be back next week to give a rundown of the Super Bowl.
Millie is shaking her head no.
Is that not true?
Are we?
Yeah, next week.
I thought we were getting together in a month.
No, we got to give a rundown of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we had to do a recap of the Super Bowl.
We got to do a Super Bowl recap, and then we got to talk about the Olympics a little bit.
All right, that's
Come
fine
on,
by
Millie.
me. I mean,
We have 12
spoiler
fans
alert.
out there that are going to be begging for our
They're
opinions about the
thirsty.
Super Bowl.
Yes. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert to our 12s of fans that eventually will take a little bit of an off season. But all right, we'll be back next week.
That's right. We'll be back next week. We got to celebrate the Bengals winning.
True
Yeah.
story.
It's gonna be a beatdown.
That's right. So we'll be back next week. Go check out Curtis's blog, 12life.com. He has a really great article about Clint Hurt.
Sure does.
Hopefully we're going to be learning a little bit more about how that whole defensive coaching staff shakes out. Well, and also, like, if you like the podcast, follow it, tell your friends. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Daniel. For Alana, Millie, Curtis, the rest of 12 saying goodbye, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Bengals and Hawks.
Go Bengals.